Welcome back to the channel, Big Dog Brett. I know it's been a while. Welcome you guys back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Paul Finebaum, what he said, some NIL implications maybe, as well as is Georgia still loaded? So can Georgia make another solid run? We'll talk a little bit more about it right after this. All right, everyone, without further ado, something that kind of popped up in the news here recently. Anybody who knows Paul Finebaum knows that he is a big supporter of Alabama. He's made no he's not made it difficult to figure out who his favorite team is for the most part. Now, he has at times called out Alabama for some things they could have done better, but for the most part he's pretty solid supporter of the Tide. So to hear him come out and say something as inflammatory as Georgia is the best program in college football, and he's not talking about just this last season, he's talking about in general, and it's pretty interesting once you get into his point of view on it. Paul Finebaum is making the point that UGA is doing such a solid job that they have in some manners eclipsed Alabama now. People are going to expect me to say, of course Georgia has. Of course Georgia has. Georgia has to a point. But the sustainability that Alabama has seemed to have put forward is nearly impossible to match. It would take a phenomenal turn of events for Georgia to eclipse Alabama. Not only would Georgia have to put up the same amount of success, they would have to do it for an even longer period of time. So has Georgia had some solid success in the past few years? Absolutely. Georgia's had phenomenal success under Kirby Smart. But has Georgia eclipsed Alabama? Not in my opinion, not overall. They have quite a few national championships. Georgia has quite a few, nowhere near what Alabama does, but then again, nobody else does either, except maybe Yale or Princeton. I don't know, one of those teams. So, in my opinion, if you look at Georgia's last year run, it is a solid indication of how well Georgia can do in the current environment. Now, today's college football is amazingly different than what it was just 10 years ago. Now, there are some things that have changed for the better. There are some things that have changed for the worse when you look at the playoff football format that we have now. This is twice that an SEC team has lost the SEC championship and went on to win the national title. Alabama did it against Georgia a few years back, and Georgia just did it to Alabama a few years back, or last year, excuse me. So there's a lot to be said for how much things have changed. And if you were to go to years previous, before the college football playoff, it's not very likely that if you lost the SEC championship game that you would go on to play for a national title. So in both of those, for instances, you would likely see neither one of those teams would have won a national championship in those years, just because of how it plays out. Now they're talking about expansion of the college football playoff and whatnot, and that's a whole nother video for a whole nother time. We still don't have enough information on that to make anything concrete, but it's coming, so we'll see what happens. But as far as Georgia eclipsing Alabama, Georgia is doing a lot of things right. Georgia has, under Kirby Smart, made defense relevant again. They've made a statement that says, if you play great defense, you don't have to have a Heisman quarterback. Now, that's going to take me on. Let me take a little side jaunt here. Mark Ingram, sir, you're making yourself look foolish. For those of you who don't know Mark Ingram II, if you want to go look him up on Twitter, you can give him your opinion on that. Said that Georgia should be thanking Alabama for a national championship, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous. You cheapen all of the hard work that all of those players put in. The 15 players that entered the draft would probably, those 15 players that were drafted and one overall first pick draft, I might add, would probably have something a little different to say. Now, I reached out to Mark on Twitter, but he didn't respond. I can't imagine why. Sir, that was a quality football team that played some of the greatest defense we've seen in modern football history. And all but 2 of those games were played against somebody other than Alabama. So that has nothing. Alabama had very little to do with Georgia doing what it done. Now, I would also like to point out, since Georgia's Kirby Smart has left Alabama, their defensive numbers have begun to slip as far as points per game, while Georgia's has improved. So you might want to say Alabama should thank Georgia, specifically Kirby Smart, for you guys winning your national championship. Now, Kirby Smart may have been taught by Nick Saban, and that's fine. You can say that. But if that was the case, and all of it was Nick Saban, then why have the numbers changed so dramatically since Kirby Smart has left? Now, that's an argument that's going to be a little bit difficult for a lot of Alabama fans to answer. But the fact of the matter is that that's because Kirby Smart was coaching the defense, and he is a defensive mastermind. Not saying that Nick Saban is not an defensive mastermind. Not saying that. I'm just saying you kind of got to follow the numbers. And the numbers clearly indicate that the reason, at least a main contributing factor, must have been Kirby Smart. That's just the way the numbers pan out. Now, let's talk about the NIL impact a little bit. So Texas A&M came out and got this huge recruiting. First time they've had a number 1 recruiting class, and I don't even think I could find the number because it was so long ago, if it ever happened at all. I think since they started keeping track, I don't think they've had a number 1 recruiting class. There's a lot of moving pieces to the NIL aspect, and one of those moving pieces is that we don't really know how this is going to impact everything right now. Eventually, we will know more based off of what's the word I'm looking for? Payback, I guess, is the one way to look at it, but not monetarily. These people that are investing this money in these NIL agreements, whether it's a corporation or a business or boosters or whomever it is, they're kind of expecting something in return. You know, when you sign a guy up for a sponsorship for Subway, that's great. But if that guy goes out and throws 5 interceptions every single game, that's not going to be the kind of impact you want. So we don't really know what the top end of the NIL impact cap is going to be, and that means what is the market going to bear. We just don't know. And it's going to take a few years to get it figured out, but once they get it figured out, I think some of these things will calm down. You'll start to see players that would have normally gravitated towards a Texas A&M might turn around and gravitate towards a Texas, or since Texas is coming back in the SEC. Speaking of Texas, phenomenal job on the draft, guys. You guys, all the drafts you guys had, I'm sure that impressed Arch Manning. Just absolutely put Georgia to shame on the NFL draft, so we really appreciate you guys doing that. For those of you who think Arch Manning is still going to go to Texas, why would a potential first-round draft pick, which is early to say that, but why would a potential first-round draft pick quarterback go to a college that had absolutely nobody drafted? Or the other school that you're looking at just had 15 first-round draft picks, or not 15 first-round, but 15 draft picks. I think 4 in the first round, or 6 in the first round, or something ridiculous. I can't remember. Whenever you know people are going to be watching those Georgia games more than they're going to be watching Texas games, and some might say Georgia doesn't have wide receivers. I'd very much say Texas is in a worse position than Georgia is in that aspect. Now, that having been said, this absolutely proves and puts to bed and puts away the accusation that Kirby Smart can't coach guys up, that he can't develop guys. Nobody, including myself, at the beginning of last year, thought for 1 second that Georgia would have 15 players get drafted. Nobody thought that. And that's proof positive that Georgia can develop talent. Now, there are some people that are saying that Georgia will have at least 2, possibly 3 first-round draft picks from the defense this coming up 2023 season, 2022 season, however you want to look at it. There's a lot of talent still left on Georgia's roster. So if you think that this is going to be an LSU-esque year where they win a national title and then they just fall apart, you should probably dig a little bit more into Georgia's roster. Georgia's roster is absolutely incredible. I do want to take a moment here while we were talking about last year's roster, and I want to show you guys something here. This is Dogstruction. You should go over to Dog Post and reach out to Dean Legge and get you a copy of this. If you're a Dogs fan, you really should have this book. If you're a true diehard fan, it looks great. It has a smooth feel to it. The colors are phenomenal. If you look in here, they've even got a full-page picture of JT Daniels, and the green screen in the back is messing it up. Also, if you reach out to Dean, he will sign the book for you. But every single game is in here. Gives you the score, gives you the stat, 34-7 Georgia versus Florida, and just a lot of absolutely incredible pictures in here. Great story, information about players. Jeff Foxworthy helped put this out. It's just really well done, really well done. One of my very personal favorites is this picture here, which, as you can see, there's a quarterback here who may or may not be folded up like a taco. So great pictures in this, Dean. I really appreciate it. I also want to show you guys Kirby Smart here at the end getting down. There's just a ton of great stuff in here. Go over to Dog Post, check out Dean Legge, get you a copy of this. You will never have another book come out that will be as impressive as this one. The 2021 season was absolutely magical. No reason to not have this. If you're a Dogs fan, I'm sure you spent more money on tickets than you probably care to admit. You've probably got more Georgia merchandise than you care to admit. But if you don't have this, you're missing a big piece. So just want to put that out for you. Great piece of great piece of UGA memorabilia to have right there. Okay, next up, I do want to talk a little bit more about the NIL agreement. The NIL agreement is going to continue to change college football, and you're likely going to see talented funneled even more specifically than what you've seen in years past. In years past, it's been the teams that were capable of putting you in the NFL, those that could really coach you up, showed you good talent, things like that. Show off your talent, excuse me. But one of the things that we haven't talked about is how the media coverage is going to impact NILs. For instance, if you were a 5-star player previously and you were interested in name, image, and likeness, but it wasn't around, that wasn't a factor for you at all. So if you wanted to go play for Pitt, or you wanted to go play for Wake Forest, you could do that, and it really didn't impact you all that much. You're like, well, I'll get a lot of playing time, blah, 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 blah. But now, whenever you've got powerhouse teams, and I'm talking about the current powerhouse teams that garner a lot of national media attention every single Saturday. We're talking Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Texas, Southern Cal, USC-ish, Oregon, Wisconsin, the bigger name teams out there, Purdue, Boilermakers, whatever, the teams that you would recognize if you flipped on TV, go, oh yeah, I know, that's a pretty prominent team. It's one of the, say top 10% of the Power 5 conferences. Inside of those programs, players that would normally go play for those teams now are going to be incentivized to play for other teams based off of the NIL impact. And the NIL impact is going to be directly affected by what teams get the most media exposure. So your Alabamas and your Georgias, which are going to be on primetime every single week, are going to be able to get and sign bigger and more important NIL deals than your Texas A&Ms are going to be able to in the future. I think this is a one-off for Texas A&M. I think they will continue to do well with the NIL, but I think once your Georgias, your Alabamas, and get ramped up, it's going to be even harder to compete because the pocketbooks at Georgia, the pocketbooks at Alabama are just deeper, and they're deeper because college football just means more here. I hate to say it to you that way, Texas. I get what you're going to say, but y'all got like 6 football teams, and your fan base is divided. Texas really ain't been relevant in forever, and Texas A&M beat Alabama one time in the past however many years. They do okay, but they're not a powerhouse. They're not. Now, they may continue to be a strong team, but that NIL is going to continue to pull talent away from those places once these other teams get ramped up. So look in the future that not only will you see the top, we'll say the top 5 to 10 schools are going to consistently continue to be in the top 5, especially because of NIL, because basically you've made it now where you can, your media input is going to allow you to get even more talent. So it is what it is. All right, guys. Well, that's pretty much it for me today. Really appreciate you guys. Go check us out over at on Twitter, UGA Big Dog Brett. You can email me, bigdogbrett18@gmail.com. Look forward to hearing from you guys. We will have more information updates as we move forward. Hadn't made a video in a while. I wanted to do it for you guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share because I can't get to those places. We're trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the time the season starts. I can only do it with your help. And we're only, guys, we're only like 4 months away. 3 months away. 3-4 months away. It's getting close. It's getting closer. Really appreciate it. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you guys soon. Have a great day. God bless. Go Dogs.